Hi, it's Lucy from Catching Rainbows Fertility, today talking about periods. Now, I have done another video about understanding your cycle as a whole, but I really felt like I wanted to do a more in-depth video about understanding the way that you bleed and how you can really unravel clues from your body as to what it might need, whether you are just trying to be well or whether you're desperately trying to get pregnant. There are so many clues within your cycle in terms of how you bleed, and fertility clinics, they will never ask you about this stuff. They will never talk you through how to improve it, how to get it into its best space, whether there's something that needs investigating. I don't know why. I know I always say this, it just really frustrates me, and it frustrates me just as much that we get pulled aside in high school and told you're going to have periods and that's it. They don't tell you what to expect, what to look out for, what can need a bit more nourishment, what means that you need to go and get some support, what's right, what's wrong. Now, the purpose of this video is not for you to freak out and think, oh my God, I'm trying to be textbook perfect. Because there is a textbook perfect period, but I don't know many women who have it. And I don't think that you need it in order to get pregnant. But I do think that we have a personal and unique fertility threshold. So if you've got textbook cycle up here, any woman, every woman, has their fertility threshold, and it might be that in order to get pregnant she has to be somewhere here, or it might be that she has to be somewhere here, and if you're underneath that, that will mean that pregnancy isn't happening for you. So I'm hoping today I can give you some help and some clues to make sure that you come up above that threshold, because for a lot of women it really is this simple, and these women can try for years, they can have unsuccessful rounds of IVF, and it can all be about the fact that implantation cannot happen because the womb lining isn't building properly. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Number one, I want to talk about the way that you flow. Now, before I start, just know there's nothing I talk about here that we can't fix. So don't panic if you have all of these things or some of these things or one of these things. The whole point is for you to understand it, to know it, and then to be able to help your body in the specific way that it needs. Now, really, in terms of how many days you bleed, you would like to aim for anything from 2 days to 4 days. A lot of women spot into that 5th day. But if you're finding that you have a stop-start flow, where kind of, is it getting going, is it not? Wow, massive big day of bleeding and then it seems to stop, but then it starts again. Or if you find that you're dragging into the days, so, you know, day 6, day 7, day 8, even longer, just finding that you still having to wear a liner because you could just get a bit of old brown mucousy blood and it's just taking a long time for your period to just finish and complete. The reason that that happens is the position of your uterus. So basically, your uterus sits like in a pelvic bowl, and what we want is for it to be in a nice neutral central position. So really she can spread her wings, got gravity on her side, and it's easy for her to empty and everything to come out. What happens with the vast majority of us is the womb is moving. It tips forward, tips back with a retrovert uterus, or can be just scrunched off to one side. It actually inside your body isn't like it looks in the pictures with that beautiful triangle of uterus and ovaries and tubes. Really, honestly, your tubes can be down here. You can have an ovary behind each other. It can all be a bit upside down, and your uterus can really get scrunched up. So when it's like that, it's very hard for her to empty properly. So she's got this lining built up, but she's got all these folds and creases. So she's going to have stronger contractions to try to squeeze out the blood. And you're going to find that you'll have a day of nothing. And then you might just be walking along or doing some exercise and you get that, oh, more has come type feeling, which is not pleasant or convenient, is it? So that really is the fact you've just managed to jolt the uterus and a little bit more has come out. Now, the problem with that is that obviously the lining will build up unevenly. You can get little pools where you get clots, and really it doesn't really clean out. So when it gets to the next cycle and the new lining has come, it's sitting on top of old blood. So that can be quite stagnant, that can be dry, that can be really hard for your embryo to implant. So the best thing that you can do is the self-massage, or go and see an RVGO practitioner and get some work done there in terms of some really good fertility massage to help get your womb back into the right position. You can do that in conjunction with castor oil packs, and we do have a video on self-massage and castor oil packs which I can link in the description box below. Other than that, the next thing that you would obviously want to look at is how you can improve more blood flow in terms of nutrition. There are supplements that can help. Coenzyme Q10 is really good for that, and also just a bit of good old-fashioned exercise. So find something that works for you. It doesn't have to be a lot. I've got a lady who I love dearly and she hates exercise, but the thing that she really needs is to do that to move the stagnation, and she's been doing 5 minutes a day, just a YouTube video that's 5 or 7 or 10 minutes a day, and it has massively improved her flow, and she is actually pregnant. So that's really an amazing thing to have happened when there was no other things going on. Anyway, I digress, but it really can be that simple. Women can go through infertility for years, and really it just comes down to making the right few tweaks, and stagnation can be one of those tweaks. Acupuncture is another thing that helps with blood flow and movement, but honestly don't feel like you have to do it all. Just pick a couple of things that resonate or that are doable and just start there, and you will see some changes and things with your body in that respect. And you know, if you are worried about your lining being too thin, if that's a concern, something you can do is actually go and get that looked at. You can book to have a private scan. A few places do it. You could go to a fertility clinic, or you could just find somewhere that do the early pregnancy scans, and some of them do fertility scans, and just go on around day 21, day 22 of your cycle, or somewhere that you know is roughly a week after you've ovulated, and just see what the lining is looking like and whether it's thick enough, because it might be thicker than you realise, and the fact you don't bleed very much might just be very normal for you. But if you are worried about flow and you want to boost that flow, then do the castor oil packs, do the massage, do the exercise, get rid of the stagnation. And you can try things. There was a really interesting trial which looked at combining vitamin E with L-arginine, and putting the two together made a huge difference to the lining in terms of thickness and richness of blood. So the other things you can do are raspberry leaf tea. That kind of helps to tone the uterus, and actually that's good for everyone, whether your flow is heavy, medium or light. So now I'm going to talk about the colour of the bleeding. Really, we want to see some nice, rich red flow, and you want to have a good lot of that nice, rich blood for 24 hours. And after that, fine, it can tail off, or it might go on for a few more days. If you're getting really, really heavy flooding periods, it's important that you get checked in case you have fibroid or a polyp, or maybe even endometriosis. All three things can be sorted, but all three things can get in the way of fertility and conception. So if you're finding, actually, I have to change my tampon or pad or whatever every hour for, you know, the first day or the first couple of days, then that's definitely worth looking at and getting checked out. But in terms of the colour moving on, if you're getting brown spotting that goes on and on and on towards the end, obviously that relates back to what I've just been saying about the position of your uterus, and just making sure that she can clear and she can empty, and she's not just trying to get rid of all this old dry blood. So if you're finding that you get more than a day or two of the brown tailing off blood towards the end of your period, then I would really recommend doing the things that boost blood flow that I've talked about just now. If you're having brown spotting at the beginning, that is a bit of a different story. Brown spotting at the beginning can be just blood from last month's period, and if you're having it for less than 24 hours before you properly come on, then that's really not too much of an issue at all, and I wouldn't really worry too much about that. But if you're having a couple of days of spotting, or even 3 or 4 days of spotting, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to get pregnant on that. And I have had lots of women with that kind of spotting who've gone on to get pregnant before they've got to completely resolve that spotting. But what's really important to look at is that to do with the way the womb is positioned, or is that more to do with something hormonal? And it's likely to be hormonal. So what I would do in that instance is I would plot your temperature chart for your cycle, particularly looking at that last stage from ovulation through to period. Now what you want to see is a good 10 high temperatures. If you're finding that the spotting comes after the 10 high temperatures, that's not so bad. If your spotting is starting from kind of day 9, or you're finding that basically as you spot the temperatures start to fall, then that probably means that we need to look at lengthening, strengthening and supporting the luteal phase. So that means boosting progesterone and settling your cycle balance. So it's kind of hard to explain without seeing exactly what your chart is doing, but the red flags that I'm looking for are essentially that temperature dropping down before you've had your full luteal phase. And I would want to see at least 10 temperatures that are high before that temperature starts to fall and the spotting starts to come. So if you're finding that your temperatures fall and you start to spot, then that is going to be hormonal. So you want to look at things that support and strengthen that, and that's going to be slightly different for each woman, and it's hard to give you a blanket advice for that because it is different person to person, but there are lots of natural things that you can do to boost progesterone. Actually going to the doctors and getting progesterone supplements doesn't seem to make any difference. It's like the body just doesn't know how to use it. So it's much more important to fix the cycle from inside and actually help the body get used to making its own progesterone. You can try things like vitamin C, vitamin B6. They really help with the production and sustaining of progesterone. If that doesn't work, I tend to move on to a little tiny smidge of Agnus castus and see how that goes. But really you want to look at the cycle as a whole and see what else is going on. How is ovulation behaving? Are you managing to see that you ovulate and either the temperature dips down and then goes up, or it just goes straight up? Or are you finding that it dips down and it tries to go up, then it dips down and it tries to go up, dips down and then it finally goes up? If you've got that going on, then you want to look at the cycle as a whole. So all in all, if you've got any hormonal imbalance, it's great to have some kind of a hormone cleanse, and that's just looking at foods that are really nourishing and supportive of your body, particularly really just giving your liver a rest. So taking out all the hard work, so making sure there's no processed foods, just for a week or 10 days, just take out things like dairy, gluten, alcohol, caffeine, fun, anything that's remotely going to give you some fun on that spectrum. But honestly, there are some lovely recipes out there in terms of just nice, clean, healthy proteins and greens. Just, as I say, not forever. Just give yourself a week of really just cleansing, nourishing, supporting, and then start to look at adding in supplements that will support your hormones and things that support you. Because the other thing that I find when women are having that temperature drop and that spotting before they come on, not with every woman, but with a lot of women, they are living on high adrenaline, high cortisol, high stress. And that doesn't mean you're a total stress head, and there's nothing wrong with being in that place. I've been in that place. I often go back to that place. It's just a setting that we can get onto that doesn't help us. And whether it's because you're being really busy headed, because you're multitasking like a crazy person, or you're just juggling an awful lot. So your body's gone, you're busy. You need loads of adrenaline and loads of cortisol just to keep you rocking that busyness. Trouble with that is that it directly robs your progesterone bank. So the more we keep that stress hormone level high, the more the fertility just kind of gets put on the back burner. And it can totally be put back into the place of priority. It really can. And sometimes if you just do some of these self-care things and you teach yourself some techniques, or you change things in your life in terms of just your workload or the way you approach your workload. Sometimes some really simple things can make a powerful difference, and it doesn't mean you have to totally change your routine and your life, but it's just acknowledging, maybe my body's running on too much adrenaline and I just need to help bring it down a couple of notches. So I think that just about covers it. So really, essentially, you're looking for your period to be done and dusted within 5 days. If your period is done and dusted within 2 or 3 days, that's totally fine. That's actually really good. That's really normal. Some women it's normal to have 2 days. Some women it's normal to have 5 days. And for some women, they're dragging on into 6, 7, 8. And for those women, hopefully I've given you some advice and some tips to support with that. And in terms of the spotting beforehand, I hope that you've been able to get some support with that. If you have any questions, if you would like to work with myself or with Kath and get us to help you interpret your cycle or interpret your temperature chart, anything like that, please always do get in touch. We would love to have you, and our website is catchingrainbowsfertility.co.uk if you want to email us through there. And I think I will wrap it up there, because I shall just ramble on, because periods are one of my most favourite subjects. So this is sent with huge amounts of love, and I'll see you in the next one.